Terry, are you ready for it? We've gotten all these strange new marriages. Now, guess what?
I shudder to think. I can't imagine.
We live in Virginia, okay? Conservative Old Dominion. And there's a town, I was born in a city called Lexington, and up the road from Lexington, 40, 50 miles, a little town called Waynesboro. And they had mills and factories, and it's a nice little town, pretty little town. Okay. There was a lady in Waynesboro, according to the story I read, I think it's Waynesboro, she was married to a man, and they had a baby, a child. Okay.
Yes.
Now, guess what follows next? In Waynesboro, Virginia, she finds a woman. She thinks the woman is her soulmate, so she gets married to the woman.
She divorces the husband.
No, she didn't divorce anybody. She got married to the woman. She's already married to the man. Now, who would have thought that there would be a case that would convict her of bigamy in the state?
Wow.
For getting involved in a same-sex marriage with this woman when she's already married to a man.
Crazy world.
It's a crazy world, folks. But it according to the news report, I read it, it said she got convicted. I don't think they did a whole lot bad to her, but the husband said, I want the child. Yeah, I don't want the child living with these people.
Well, she sounds like she's mixed up.
Well,
to say the least.
She's found true romance according to the Supreme Court. I mean, that's her constitutional right. Well, we'll see. It's going to get, hey, if the Supreme Court rules like they may, heaven help Christian schools, Christian churches, we just don't know how pervasive this thing's going to get. But imagine a little town in Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, near my hometown. Bigamy. Hey, how can you have bigamy? How can you have polygamy? There can be no law against polygamy.
Well, I mean, if the law is passed that it's...
Yeah, but if it's the constitutional right that you can have same sex, then why in the world can't you have polyamory? Why can't you have polygamy?
Well, you've said that could be where this is all going.
It's right coming out. The next case, you watch it. Okay, well, I'm going to go from the ridiculous to something more serious. Imagine the deadliest terrorists in the world, ISIS, with a thermonuclear device, a dirty bomb. It sounds like something out of a horror movie, but it may be all too real. ISIS is reportedly trying to build or buy its own dirty bomb, and they have seized the materials needed, the pharmaceutical materials needed to craft a dirty bomb. Terry.
Well, if ISIS does get nukes, they could try to smuggle them into the United States. Heather Sells has the chilling story.
The new report about ISIS's plans come from Australian intelligence. The Australian foreign minister told the Australian newspaper that Islamic terrorists took the materials to build a dirty bomb from research centers and hospitals. ISIS itself declared plans to develop weapons of mass destruction in its online magazine. And the London Daily Mail reports that ISIS says it could buy a nuclear bomb from weapons dealers with links to corrupt officials in Pakistan. ISIS could then possibly smuggle such a bomb into the United States.
For now, some experts fear that ISIS will ramp up its terror campaign with the start of Ramadan next week. They are also concerned about plans for violence to mark its one-year anniversary as a caliphate on June 29th.
As the U.S. moves to contain ISIS, the president has announced he'll send several hundred extra military advisors to Iraq. The goal, help Iraqi fighters take back the strategic city of Ramadi. Despite ongoing criticism that the president's strategy isn't working, the White House says it's making the right moves.
The president and his team are confident that for now, 450 troops are additional military personnel are what is necessary to fulfill this expanded advise and assist and training mission.
It's comments like that, say critics, that indicate a policy failure. More striking, perhaps, are the obvious challenges that ISIS now controls large portions of Iraq and that it could build a dirty bomb, inflicting both serious physical and psychological damage. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very serious. ISIS is serious. The president refuses to do anything. 450 advisors, give me a break. I mean, they've got a whole country of Iraq. They've got the country of Syria. By the way, ISIS has found fellow travelers in Libya. It looks like it's taking over Libya. And who knows what other countries it's going after. But this whole idea of it's a radiological. You can get materials in a lab that are available right now in the medical laboratories of the nation or in many hospitals. You can get the material necessary to put a dirty bomb out. And a dirty bomb will pollute miles and miles of a particular city. It'll make it toxic for people to live in. So you take one of those things and put it off in Manhattan, and Manhattan suddenly goes dark. It's a very serious thing. And what are we doing? We're playing about it. You just want to scream at those people in Washington who are allowing this to happen. And knowing the threat, they've taken over Ramadi, they've taken over Mosul, they've taken over the better part of Iraq, they've taken over the better part of Syria, they're taking over Libya, and who knows what other countries he'll go after as the message of ISIS gets out. It is a major problem. It's like a huge conflagration where blocks of houses are on fire, and the fire truck comes up with a garden hose and said, well, we'll spray this on there 5 hours a day. And you think, are you out of your mind? The house is on fire. Whew. Okay. Is that enough?
Well, it needs to be heard.
Well, we better, but they don't hear it in Washington. They're tone deaf. Well, in other news, an American has been killed fighting against ISIS in Syria. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Here's John.
That's right, Pat. Keith Broomfield was voluntarily fighting alongside Kurdish forces against the Islamic State because he believed that's what God wanted him to do. Broomfield hailed from central Massachusetts and is likely the first U.S. citizen to die fighting ISIS. It happened in battle on June 3rd near the Syrian border town of Kobani. He leaves behind family and friends who say he committed his life to the Lord. Now his family is turning to their faith in God to help them get through the loss.
He just had this idea in his head to go fight against them and for the persecution of Christians, and that's what he did.
I know that they're a real Christian family, so I'm sure they're going to rely heavily on their faith to kind of get them through that.
Broomfield was 36 years old. American pastor Saeed Abedini has once again been beaten by fellow prisoners in Iran. His wife Naghmeh wrote a post about the attack on her Facebook page saying, "It is truly heartbreaking to know that one day after I spoke in front of our Congress, Saeed was beaten by fellow prisoners." The attack happened last Wednesday as he was attempting to leave his cell. Pastor Saeed was punched in the face near his left eye and nose. His attackers also destroyed a small table he used for reading and studying. Prison guards did intervene when he called for help. In another statement, Naghmeh wrote, "It's time to get Saeed home before it's too late." Pastor Abedini has been physically assaulted many times in the past, including being beaten by prison guards. Well, here at home, congressional Republicans are pushing to block new Environmental Protection Agency regulations before they go into effect later this year. The Obama administration has revised the Clean Water Act, giving them power to regulate small streams, tributaries, and wetlands. But Republicans call it a power grab, saying the new regulations are an expensive and confusing burden for farmers and landowners.
It's the last thing we need, and especially right now because the EPA is allowed to have some regulatory control over navigable waters. Well, they are trying to make that mean every little puddle all over the country.
The House passed a bill last month to block the rules, and a Senate Environmental Committee approved a similar bill Wednesday. And Pat, the White House has already threatened to veto the House version.
You know, it looked like the Obama was a lame duck after this last election. He lost the Senate. The House got more Republicans. They have a very strong group, and somehow he's been able to frustrate the will of Congress and just do what he wants to do. and to impose this radical agenda on the United States. He's doing everything he can. The regulations are coming out by the hundreds. The agencies are running amok, and who's stopping them? And now we understand this trade bill. Senator Sessions is bringing out the fact that this trade bill is secret. Nobody has been able to read it. And the big headline today was, if American people could read it, they would vote overwhelmingly against it. They won't even let them read it. It's a secret treaty that he wants the Congress to pass to give him fast-track trade authority. And he's not telling how significant. And according to Senator Sessions, the Sultan of Brunei would have one vote, and the United States would have one vote. And when something comes up, a group of small nations could dominate and force us to do things we don't want to do. That's in that bill, but he won't let the president won't let anybody see it. So we're in a bind, ladies and gentlemen, and something's got to be done quickly. John?
Pat, stem cells are a promising new area in medical research. While pro-life groups object to their use when they come from human embryos, many doctors are now turning to adult stem cells from the patient's own body to treat a variety of medical problems. But as Lori Johnson explains, some experts believe the technology needs more regulation.
Stem cell clinics are popping up across the country, an estimated 200 so far.
Stem cells are the basic building blocks of every one of us. They live in blood, bone, and fat and can be used to rejuvenate other parts of the body.
Stem cell therapy involves extracting a patient's stem cells from a certain area, then injecting them into a problem area.
You have to realize everything that we're giving the patient back is already in their body. All we've done is concentrate the stem cells.
Stem cells from bone marrow is already an established therapy for a handful of blood cancers. But Dr. Berman says stem cells from fat are just as good.
These cells are separated, so look, the fat's gone to the top, and now all the cells are in the bottom.
After separating out the stem cells, they're concentrated.
All we do is remove all the debris, wash out the collagenase, and when we're done, we have 5 to 10 milliliters, like 2 teaspoons of a soup. And then we will inject that soup into the joint or even intravenously.
Adult stem cells are used to treat more than 30 conditions, including sports injuries, multiple sclerosis, lupus, and lung disease, even facelifts and other anti-aging procedures, at a cost ranging from $5,000 to $20,000. But does it work, and is it safe?
Much of the evidence to support the use of adult stem cell therapy is anecdotal, and there's very little regulation over stem cell clinics.
Paul Knopfler is a stem cell researcher at the University of California, Davis School of Medicine. He says when it comes to stem cell therapy, let the buyer beware.
The stem cell technology is really exciting, and it's kind of this cutting edge 21st century technology, but the way it's being implemented at these clinics and how it's regulated, it's more like 19th century. It's sort of like this Wild West,
Industry critics are calling for the FDA to regulate stem cell clinics, but the agency's authority to do so is not clearly defined and has been debated by legal experts for years. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Pat, promising new cutting-edge technology that might need a little more overseeing.
You remember they screamed bloody murder against Bush. Oh, Bush is against stem cells. He's against stem cells. No, he wasn't. He wasn't against stem cells, and we've all been in favor of adult stem cells. They hold great promise. What the problem was, embryonic stem cells, that you would kill an embryo in order to get the stem cells. That was the problem. And they insisted on the amniotic fluid in relation to placenta and so forth. Perfectly good for stem cells. I mean, you get all kinds of stem cells. And the government was for it, but they did not fund embryonic stem cells, and so the left was screaming bloody murder. But anyhow, thank goodness they're doing it. It's wonderful technology, and it's going to help a lot of people. Now, would you think that Texas, Rick Perry, the miracle state, creating all these jobs, and it's a place of live free or die, And 2 little girls wanted to do something nice for their daddy on Father's Day. So look what happened in Texas.
Pat, it looks like the Lemonade police are at it again. Earlier this week, Illinois health officials briefly shut down a group of girls called the Lemonade Brigade in McHenry County. Now it's happened to 2 young sisters in Overton, Texas.
We were trying to raise some money so we can take our dad to Splash Kingdom.
Andrea and Zoe Green wanted to make money for a Father's Day gift. They were selling lemonade for 50 cents and kettle corn. But the police told the girls they need a peddler's permit. In addition, their mother found out they needed a license from the health department before they could even get that permit.
It is a lemonade stand, but we also have to have a permit they're required to get.
I think that's ridiculous. I think they're 7 and 8. They're just trying to make money for their own cause.
The girl's mother told ABC once they found out everything they had to go through, they decided to stop selling the lemonade and ask for donations instead. The police say that's okay. So the girls will open up their stand again and give some of the money for a scholarship for a high school senior majoring in business management. Pat, seems like the perfect example of government regulation run amok.
Oh man, a couple of kids selling lemonade. I mean, you used to have lemonade stands. I would think as a kid, I sold lemonade. I mean, you're out there with lemonade, 5 cents a drink.
And whatever else you were willing to invest
Yeah,
yourself
they had
in.
cookies or whatever, and you knocked on the doors and said, I've got some cookies. I mean, now, oh, brother.